Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for attending this morning. My name is Terry Link. I'm chair of the board of directors of the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our kickoff breakfast here this morning. I know I speak for the entire board when I say that we are deeply grateful for the community of supporters that help the food bank do its work throughout the year. We're so appreciative of all of you. I'd like to take a moment to introduce some of our special guests here this morning. I'd like to begin with my colleagues on the food bank board. Would board members please stand to be recognized? Thank you. Thank you for all your support. I'd also like to recognize our 2022 Harvest for Hunger campaign co-chairs, Bernette Williams, Vice President of External Affairs at Akron Children's Hospital, and Sam Falletta, CEO of INSEPT. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you. To our elected officials with us this morning, would you please stand so we can recognize you? I'd also like to say a special thank you to today's breakfast sponsors, Huntington Bank and State and Federal Communications. Thank you. And finally, all our hunger relief partners within our network here today, some of whom got up really early and drove many miles to be here, we love you. Would our agency partners please stand to be recognized? Fighting hunger on the front lines. Thank you so much. You're the best. And now I'd like to introduce the Food Bank's president and CEO, Dan Flowers.
Well, good morning, everyone. Wow, what a great day. It makes my heart so happy to be with you. I totally enjoyed standing up there off the escalator, seeing friend after friend come off. Isn't it great to be together on Fat Tuesday, right? Yeah, we've had this kickoff so many times around this time in the year, and I'll never forget the times when we've had it on Wednesdays and people have showed up with the ashes on their head, and this campaign always is a symbol of the season for me. The Harvest for Hunger campaign, it always starts around now, and the wrap-up always takes place in May, and it's filled with the promise of spring. It's filled with the promise of the good things to come. And it's a great hope for us today that this kickoff and this season can not just be a rebirth for the trees and for the birds and in the life-giving bounty of spring, but that it can be the start of a great Harvest for Hunger campaign and a rebirth in our lives and in our country that's been through so much. I come before you today with a resounding message of hope, born out of perseverance and the power of collective grit and the spirit of those whose hearts are good. We've gathered today not out of self-congratulations or ego or of service to our own interests, but out of collective concern for the well-being of people in this community that have the very least. For those who cling to hope, this day is for you. This Harvest for Hunger campaign we're kicking off today is for you. And that's why we got up so early on a cold March 1st to affirm our commitment that no person in this community will go hungry. That's right. Today, we affirm that we, all of you, are the kind of people that think that matters. And I believe for the blessings bestowed upon us and upon this land. It's the very least that we can do. Today, we also turn our eyes upon those who came before us in this work. The people who, through their silent efforts, many of them, many of their efforts have been lost into history. But they built this great movement in our community. And here this morning, we will mark their contributions and bless their memory in humble gratitude as we celebrate the food bank's founding in 1982, exactly 40 years ago. Some of our founders, in fact, several of them I saw walk in this morning, including my predecessor, the founding CEO of the food bank, Dan Svita. Where's Dan at? I think Dan is with us this morning. I tell you what, this guy right here is a legend. He's a legend around the country. And everywhere I go around the country, people ask me, how's Dan's doing? He contributed greatly, not just to the founding of this food bank, but the Ohio Association of Food Banks was incorporated at 546 Grant Street by this gentleman right over here, Dan Svita. His legacy is extraordinary in the work that we are talking about today, and we're going to honor Dan and a lot of our other founders this morning. Now, when the food bank was founded in 1982, and I want you to think back with me now, if you can, to what you were doing in 1982. I was trying to figure out junior high school and how to tie a proper double half-hitch knot as a young tenderfoot. Now, that picture was made at the Davidson Free Methodist Church, where I spent all of my Sundays and Monday nights at Boy Scouts, too. Now, let's see what some of our other leaders were up to the year the food bank was founded. Here's our board chair, Terry Link, who just kicked off the breakfast in 1982. You look great, actually, Terry, in that picture. And then Bernette Williams, always fabulous there in D.C. And Sam Falata here. There's Sam. It looks like a first or second grader. Sam, I love that. How many of you got your school pictures in that same format with those little sheets? Isn't that great? What a great memory. Well, so while we were in these places in 1982 living our lives, most of us were entirely unaware that a dedicated band of community leaders in Akron, led by Tom Allio, I'm sure many of you know Tom and have worked with Tom, but Tom was the leader of the group that formed up, and they were catching wind of a movement that was spreading across the country called food banking. And they formed an exploration committee. They visited communities all around the area, and they incorporated the Akron Area Food Bank in 1982. Now, it was spelled Foodbank because they were not able to use K according to state requirements. So it was the Akron Area Food Bank. And then you can see Tom and Rita's signatures here, along with John Douglas. Let's take a walk down memory lane and hear some of the food bank's original founders and community advocates. Hear from some of them.
When I heard about the food bank, I think I was working at the Department of Human Services, and it was a concept that I thought, oh, it's about a food pantry. But then I looked into it a little more and it was like, well, wait a minute, this is something different. This is an organization that coordinates food pantries and one that collects surplus food from the food industry.
At Community Action, we're very concerned about availability of food, and the state of Ohio cut the general assistance budget so that individuals, especially single individuals, would be getting less subsidy from the state. You know, Tom Allio and the Catholic Commission and other groups were equally concerned, and we were all kind of working together.
The involvement came through Dorothy Jackson, who was deputy mayor for the city. About 1990 was when I met Dan Svita and was asked to serve on the board. And, you know, it was how do we pay the light bill kind of a period. And every month worrying about that. And to buy a piece of equipment was, oh gosh, what do we do? You know, what do we give up to be able to get that? And when we originally met as a board, we didn't have a conference room on site. Many board members at the time did some of the tasks that needed to be done on a monthly basis because we didn't have staff to do it yet at that point.
As you're going through the growing pains at that point in time, I don't think we had a vision of, hey, we're gonna have this size building. We're gonna, we knew we were gonna eventually need more warehouse
We just wanted a
space.
building.
Yeah, we didn't know, hey, how are you gonna do all this? And nobody had that vision. But the vision, I think, was if we run this more as a business, keeping in mind that it's a charity and that there's, people are donating and that we're helping the community, we can be way more effective with the community. And we can rely more on ourselves.
You talk about sustainability, you talk about the impact over the years. It's nothing short of a miracle. And to continue to impact families and to allow opportunities for volunteers and organizations to bear fruit to what the food bank can offer and what it's accomplished over the past 4 decades.
I look at, where we've come. And I look at all of the people who poured into this agency before I even got here. Dan Svita, Tom Alio, Stephen Hardesty, who was the first chair of the food bank and has a pile of documents this thick of work that he did to start this food bank. Most people that work at the food bank don't even know his name. But there wouldn't be one if he wouldn't have done this. People that came along the way, Gary Benz, staff members, Jill Oldham, Josie McElroy. People that just spun this wheel of momentum and goodwill. And they got this organization rolling and moving into what it is today. Can we get a round of applause for our founders that are with us today? We love you so much. Now, the early founders of America's food banks were not aware of just how far the movement would go, although many of them are fortunately still around to see the fruits of their work. They were mostly responding to 2 things: the real and persistent need for charities to provide food to keep people from going hungry in their communities. This has been a situation for a long time. And they were responding to an emerging significant supply of grocery industry surpluses. These are the 2 essential ingredients that make up the food bank's DNA, not just ours, but every food bank in the country. But I was thinking about this morning on my way in. I'm listening to the Daily Audio Bible, and we're in the book of Leviticus. And yesterday they read a passage of Scripture, and it went something like, I'm paraphrasing, "When ye reap the harvest of your field, thou shalt not harvest the corners of thy field, nor shall thou gather the gleanings. Thou shalt leave them for the poor." And although we have taken and added a lot to that work, there's a core essential truth in not just the Christian religion, but every religion that compels us forward into charity to help people in need. It doesn't matter what your politics or what your religion is. There is a universal truth of charity and the right thing to do, which is to take care of people that are in need. Now, 40 years after our founding, the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank is an agency of great depth. During the last 2 years of this pandemic, in partnership with our charitable partners, listen to me now, we have provided over $100 million worth of food to people in need for absolute free in the 8 counties that we serve. We have stood in parking lots. We have handed out hundreds of thousands of masks and truckloads of hand sanitizer. We've set up vaccine clinics at our food distributions. We've helped people register to vote. We've connected new moms to charity child care services, partnered with community legal aid to help people resolve complicated legal problems and empower them in getting their true potential in life. We couldn't do this work without you. And I profoundly mean that. Over the course of this pandemic, I've sat in my office and I've signed thank you notes. And so often, the names at the top of the letters are people that I didn't know. People in this community that had never been in for a tour, but people that were giving $1, $2, $20,000. And I sit in my office alone and I'm absolutely overwhelmed with gratitude. I am one person. How can I write my name on this and send the love and gratitude this food bank has to these people? because I know that their generosity has been the essential difference that has kept us in this. This pandemic has been tough. It's been tough. It's been hard to find food. It's been hard to find volunteers. It's been hard to keep engaged in this work when day after day after day, the lines are longer and longer, and we're having to respond quickly. And one thing this food bank has not had to do, thank God, for the last 2 years is worry about money. Because had you not come forward and carried us, we simply, it would have been impossible for us to continue. This could have taken us out. And so I stand before you today as we emerge from this in immense gratitude that I don't know if I could ever convey. You have saved your Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank, and we have kept literally tens of thousands of people from going hungry during this pandemic. We have done that. We have. And it's because of you. Now our work continues. Our work continues. And this Harvest for Hunger campaign is critical to those ends. This campaign directly impacts our work. And with this much at stake, the focus and precision of this campaign must be clear and present. And so I'd now like to introduce one of my great colleagues to come forward and say a few words. Her name is Colleen Benson. Now, Colleen has been with us for, I don't know, how long, Colleen, like 11 years? Colleen is great. So Colleen's a great mom, a great friend. She's the best speller I've ever met. She won the spelling bee that the Canton Repository had for us, and that's something that we're really proud of. Her and her husband Joel and their son Van, they have a wonderful family, and Colleen is one of the most highly ethical, smartest, best people, and I'm really, really proud to announce today that she's moved into our Senior Director of Development position, responsible for all of our fundraising at the food bank. Will you join me in giving Colleen a round warm of applause this morning as she comes up to speak with you today? Colleen.
Thank you, Dan. So sweet. Such kind words. I appreciate that so much. Good morning, everybody. Happy March. I'm so excited. Happy Harvest for Hunger season. It's been a long winter, so I'm so happy to see everybody here with us this morning. Welcome to our kickoff. Harvest for Hunger is the largest campaign for the food bank annually. And as Dan mentioned, I've been with the food bank for over 11 years. But like all of you, I once sat in the audience in a much different venue. I think the first kickoff that I came to for the food bank was in the basement of the warehouse over on Grant Street, and forklifts were driving past, and it was a much different atmosphere, probably about 15 years ago, because I first fell in love with the food bank before I came to work here. I fell in love with the food bank's mission when I was in high school, and my mom took us to the neighborhood food pantry to serve meals, and that was my first experience with food banking and with helping our hungry neighbors. And then several years later, my first career at the Akron Beacon Journal, I had the privilege of working in partnership with the food bank to create some educational pieces for the newspaper to help promote this Harvest for Hunger campaign. And so my mentor at the Beacon, Rita Kelly Maddock, was actually one of the food bank founders, and she signed the original articles of incorporation. You saw her signature on that document. And she passed along her passion to me for this mission, just like my mom had years before. So it's been with me for a long time. And I guess I want you all to know that you can pass on the passion too. That's something that we can all do, and we all have young people in our lives, and I think this work is so important. So anything you can do to bring those young folks along can make a big difference. So as we reflect on history today, it is important for all of us to think about our own history of giving, of volunteerism, of philanthropy for the cause, and really what that means to you. And I want you all to know that this is your food bank serving your community because of your generous support. Whether you have given us a financial donation or organized a food drive or volunteered at a distribution, We exist because our community has invested in this cause for 40 years, and it's been an investment of love, and we appreciate it so much. We appreciate all of you. So this campaign helps support food distribution all year long. During the summer months, when children who normally receive free meals at school may need the support of our network of food pantries, and into the cold winter months, when many families struggle with the decision to pay their heating bills or purchase groceries. And so all year long, we are able to serve the community. And although we've finally seen a decrease in demand since the height of the pandemic, we know that families are now concerned with high costs for basic needs and increased costs of living. We're experiencing inflation levels our society hasn't seen in 2 decades. And once again, the food bank will be at the ready to help those who are in need. And so the Harvest for Hunger campaign is centered around community collaboration. We're bringing together 4 regional food banks to fight hunger across 21 Northeast Ohio counties. So we partner with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. I think we might have some friends here today. The Second Harvest Food Bank of the Mahoning Valley, and the Second Harvest Food Bank of North Central Ohio. And so this year's campaign goal is to provide the equivalent of 4.6 million meals for our community, $1.13 million, and 100,000 pounds of food. Big goals. And we're confident that we can achieve this goal with your help. It's important to know that 100% of the dollars raised in this campaign go directly to providing food for people in need in our local community. The Harvest for Hunger campaign continues to be successful because of the leadership of community organizations and businesses just like yours, and it always amazes me to see so many community partners come together to rally behind one common cause, feeding people and fighting hunger. That's what we do. So thank you again for joining us this morning. I do want to thank anyone who joined us virtually as well. Hello to all of our friends online. So thank you. And I now have the pleasure of introducing 2 very inspiring leaders in our community, strong supporters of the food bank and this campaign. Please help me welcome campaign co-chairs Sam Falletta and Bernette L. Williams.
So good to be here. Good morning. Especially seeing people in person. So as I was trying to figure out if I had any dress clothes that still fit for the first time in 2 years last night, I was thinking about finally getting to see everybody, which then led me to this thought of gratitude. And Dan used that word several times this morning. And what gratitude meant, especially when we're being bombarded with so many negative messages. So as I tend to do, I ended up trying to figure out some of the research because it was changing the way that I felt about myself. And I was like, I really want to figure out this gratitude thing. So I have 3 very short, I promise they're very short, summaries of gratitude that I spent some time on yesterday. So the first was a study, 2017 by Cal Berkeley, where participants who kept a gratitude journal significantly changed their mental health in less than 4 weeks and fundamentally altered their brain function in 90 days. So just the action of writing down one thing every day that you're grateful for can fundamentally change your brain in less than 3 months. The second is a little less conventional study by a little-known social scientist, my grandfather. So he was hardcore, tough as nails, Italian immigrant. His nickname was Liberty Bell because he had a 4-inch scar in the middle of his forehead from a fight in a meat cleaver or something. So Grandpa's research focused on the absence of gratitude. When every time I would complain, he would say the famous words, "Get over here, I'll give you something to complain about." So some of you guys probably had similar Italian grandfathers. We never quite found the data of his research, but our assumption is that he also fundamentally altered brain activity in a far shorter time frame than the Berkeley study. The third was the television hero, Mr. Rogers. You've probably all seen the quote where he says, when you see, every time I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You'll always find someone who is helping. So to stand here and look out at a room that so perfectly matches that description is such an honor. So thank you to you for being the helpers. We appreciate it. As Colleen mentioned, the Harvest for Hunger campaign highlights a ton of collaboration across the region, so we want to give our thanks to some of those, particularly our supermarket partners, Bueller's Fresh Foods, Dave's Supermarket, Fisher Foods, Giant Eagle, Heinen's Fine Foods, and Get Go. They continue to champion our mission, and they lead fundraising efforts at the checkout register. The campaign is going to start this Sunday, so we're looking for everybody to continue to support us through Checkout for Hunger campaign. It's probably the easiest way to commit to the food bank. You probably recognize the $1, $5, and $10 coupons. As we think about everything that's going in the world, our gratitude becomes our obligation. This is a perfect way for all of you to help. As the campaign progresses, you're also going to see Harvest for Hunger marketing material out in the communities. We also want to thank our media sponsors and partners for their support. They really help us tell our story and the people that we serve. So a special note of gratitude to Local IQ, the Akron Beacon Journal, and the Canton Repository. We truly appreciate all of your support in getting the message out. Finally, I'd like to welcome the leader of the helpers and my co-chair, Bernette Williams.
Good morning. Thank you, Sam. And so, Sam, I count you as something that I am grateful for today. So I add you to that list. I am thrilled to lead the campaign with Sam this year. Though I am a new co-chair, I'm certainly not new to the Harvest for Hunger campaign or the impactful work of our food bank. In addition to Check Out Hunger, a key component of this campaign is the hundreds of food and fund drives organized by businesses and organizations just like yours. Coordinating a drive is a great way to engage your employees and create a positive company culture, all while doing good work for our community. In the past, some of our most successful drives have included companies that organize pancake breakfasts, dress down days, and basket raffles. But with so many employees working from home, you had to get creative last year. So we're appreciative of the ingenuity and dedication we continue to see from campaign coordinators who planned virtual food drives, game nights, and other online fundraisers. So gather your friends, coworkers, church members, and classmates, and find a unique way to get involved. Courtesy of our friends at State and Federal Communications, everyone has a coin collection container at your seat to help you get started. And on your way out today, stop at the table by the doors and pick up a campaign coordinator kit full of helpful resources. I'd like to challenge each of you to jumpstart this campaign right here, right now. Be the first to contribute by donating to the green coin jar at the center of each table or by scanning the QR code on the back of the program with your phone. Now let's hear from some longtime campaign coordinators and see how they've made their corporate campaigns fun over the years. Thank you.
When I think about the food bank, I naturally think about partnerships. And when you really start to delve into the power of partnerships, that through a collective impact, make a difference in the lives of a lot of folks. One of the programs in this town that truly does make a difference is Harvest for Hunger. And I just would encourage all the viewers of this program to get behind the program, make donations, bring your friends to the table, because that food is going to enrich the lives of the citizens of our community.
I think that for First Energy, Harvest for Hunger was probably one of the most successful employee engagement tools that company has ever had. They came up with the Cans Food Festival at Chapel Hill Mall, where the company had to go and build movie things out of food cans. That set the spark for the competition for Harvest for Hunger. To have a nonprofit organization receive that kind of attention community-wide, that says a lot about what you guys are doing.
This is your community, these are your friends, this is your family. You never know, it could be you. So when you have the opportunity to help out, we ask that you do.
My job was the employee involvement coordinator the second half of my career at Akron Children's Hospital. And one of the events that was very popular at Children's was the Idol. And even though that was such a wonderful event within our own organizations, I think one of the things that was the highlight was that the winners got to be on the Akron Civic Theater, and that was all organized by the food bank, and that was just a huge hit.
If I were to make a pitch for Harvest for Hunger, my pitch is give, give, give. Support the Harvest for Hunger campaign. Support our Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank.
Well, thank you so much, Sam and Bernette. I have to say that, well, first off, hello, honey. My wife, Holly Flowers, was here this morning, and I never like to speak without recognizing you, honey, telling you how much I appreciate you being here, Mrs. Flowers. I was remiss, friends. But it was really nice to see Dolores and Carolyn and of course, Mr. C. All of our retired friends reconvened to share how the Harvest for Hunger campaign has affected their company culture. This campaign has become interwoven into so many local businesses, and we're grateful they've chosen to support the food bank. You know, throughout the years, the food bank's mission has always remained the same: to feed our neighbors who need us. As I mentioned earlier, over the past 2 years, we have lived that mission. Our staff, our volunteers, and hunger relief partners have served on the front lines of this pandemic, fighting hunger day in and day out. We've served tens of thousands of people. Perhaps you saw pictures of the long lines stretched for miles from our parking lot, and you can see one here. You may have heard about the National Guard unit from the 145 Armored in Stowe that were here with us for over a year. There were a host of other amazing things we implemented over the past 2 years. We started a delivery program from scratch in 2 weeks when this pandemic started, and performed over 1,000 food deliveries in 2020 alone. We pursued and received grant money to fund a pop-up pantry that is bringing food and hunger relief to food deserts throughout this community every single day. And here's our new truck with the roll-up sides. It works great. Since so many people were that we were trying to help during the pandemic were stuck at home, we partnered with the United Way, and I see Jim Mullen is here this morning, and DoorDash, and we delivered over 10,000 food boxes directly to people's houses using DoorDash during this pandemic. We were the first food bank in the country to pilot a new software system from Feeding America called Order Ahead that allows people to use an app to choose what food they want in their food box. That's a big deal. The work done by your community food bank, friends, it's been heroic. I think it's been our finest hour. And in many ways, we've reveled in it, conducting a historic pandemic response, all while building and opening a brand new state-of-the-art food bank in Canton last summer. Thank you. Thank you. Aside from being a distribution hub for food to hundreds of charities in the region, our new food bank includes a demonstration kitchen, a volunteer center where we assemble the food boxes that we are making primarily for seniors, a variety of great meeting spaces with the latest technology, and we hope that you'll feel free to come and use these spaces and take a tour. Yeah, the building also has an innovative food pantry, which is really cool. And in that pantry, we're not just meeting food needs, but we're connecting people with services like the ones I mentioned earlier. The Stark County campus is phase 1 of our Growing for Good campaign, a campaign to reach further and feed more. In phase 2, we will be renovating our campus in Akron. That's coming up. We're going to be expanding our warehouse and adding a community food pantry similar to the one that we are currently operating now in Canton. This pandemic has taught us that having infrastructure in place before a crisis strikes sets the landscape for our response. And so we're emerging from COVID stronger than we've ever been before, with more resources, with more mission clarity than we've ever had before. These have been days of deep mission impact for your food bank. Our Food Bank 2020 strategic plan and this pandemic response have been giant leaps forward for us. But I still believe that the best is yet to come. It has to be. Otherwise, why are we even here? To think that almost ending hunger is enough? To have 40 great years and decide we did the best we could, so it's time to stop aspiring? Of course not. In 2022, we will begin a new strategic planning process to once again ask ourselves, how do we best use the wide understanding of our mission? How do we best use our strong network of partners and base of resources that we currently have in place? How do we best tackle the persistent issues that lead to hunger while remaining true to who we are and to who we have been? What do we stop doing? What do we start doing? All of these questions will be on the menu as we begin engaging community leaders in our new strategic planning process during the second quarter of this year. A year from now, at this Harvest for Hunger kickoff breakfast, we will be unveiling our new strategic plan, so we hope that you'll participate in the assembly of the plan, and of course, we hope that we can see you all here next year to roll it out. In closing, this pandemic has been a hard and difficult time for everyone. It's been a time of great mission impact, as I've been trying to communicate this morning. It's also been the hardest work we've ever done. And for me personally, 2021 was set in the greatest loss of my life, the death of my dad, Charles Flowers, in May, and the loss of one of our founders in February, my close friend, your close friend, our irreplaceable mentor, Phil Maynard. Arlene Hanlon, a longtime food banker, passed away in the fall. And I know that so many of you gathered here today have lost loved ones over the course of the last 2 years. And these things bring forward deep, deep reflection and, of course, deep grief. And the loss of these people has caused me to spend a lot of nights sitting in my chair in my room over the past year, just trying to pull it all together, or perhaps to keep it all together at times. Of course, I've reflected a lot about life and legacy and the nature of things. And I'm saying these things to you now because I want to let you know where some of the emotion you're going to see from me in this video we're going to close the program with today came from. You see, when I came to the food bank in 2003, that very first week, I opened a bank statement for the very first time, and an overwhelming feeling came over me. I realized that I hadn't contributed anything to it. I hadn't put a penny of that money in the bank. I hadn't yet made a financial contribution. I hadn't even finished a week's work. I hadn't raised a dime or lifted a banana box. I'd done absolutely nothing to help put this organization into motion. A profound and deep reverence came over me for the people that came before me in this work, and I resolved in that moment that I was going to put something on it. Now, over the years, it's been the honor of a lifetime to give myself to this work and to share it with so many of you. And since Phil and since Dad passed away, I've been increasingly realizing that my life will end one day too. And how can any of us grapple with that and not see every day as something to hold on to? How can we not look at these moments that we have left to decide? These moments that we have left to change, to love, to give ourselves to something and not realize that every day we're writing our story. A story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The food bank is, to me, an ideal as much as it is an operation. It's an expression of what we value. It tells me that I care about the struggles of the people around me, and it tells me that you care too. In the legacy of our founders, the work they did to bring us here, we see they were in pursuit of the same ideal that compels us forward today. Their individual stories had a beginning, and they had a middle, and they had an end. But all of our stories are intertwined, friends. Those of us who carry this work forward today are alive with them in this organization that continues its life-affirming work every day. And I believe that's the best that we all can do in life. That we can step forward towards a just cause. That we can put our hands to the wheel and through effort and energy add momentum to that wheel with our life's energy so it spins forward with greater and greater impact. And as we fall away, others will come forward and do the same thing. And together, the ideal at the center of it will reach more and more people with the love that we spent our lives' energy combining and casting forward. Amen? You don't have to give your life to this cause to put your hand to the wheel. You don't have to give $1 million to touch or be touched by the ideal at its center. You don't have to do anything related to the food bank at all to add your light to the world. There are endless ways to do that. But the food bank is a way. Harvest for Hunger is a way. And I hope that today we've inspired you to do just that. If no one's told you that they love you today, I want you to know that the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank loves you. If you struggled with nerves coming in today because you haven't been out in public in a long time and it was kind of freaky for you, be patient with yourself. We've been through a lot. Coming back out is not going to be easy for everybody, but I want to let you know that everybody here that greeted you this morning was happy you were here. We love you. Your life matters. Your best days are yet to come. Our best days are yet to come. The food bank loves you so much. And you'll be dismissed after the conclusion of this video. Thanks for coming. Roll it, Michael.
In reflecting on how the food bank has grown and changed, the mission has not. It has always been getting food to feed those who are hungry. Unfortunately, the need is still there. The good part is the food bank has grown to meet the need.
The evolution of the Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank has been the growth of it. To see it go from the small place on Grant Street and to be where it is now on Opportunity Parkway and down in Canton. And then all of the people. I mean, there's so many people that work at the food bank now and everybody is easy to work with.
There was this myth that I encountered early on that a food pantry is sort of a negative thing for a community because it creates a dependency that wouldn't normally be there. The average number of time any one family comes is less than 6 in a year. But these are people that are going to work out of their crisis and they get back on track and we never see them again. We get all our food from the Akron Food Bank, which means the impact on us is inestimable. We couldn't do it without it.
These last couple of years probably could have been the most trying times for a lot of places, a lot of stuff going on. But you know what happened during this COVID? People needed to eat. Folks is hungry. Folks losing their houses, folks dying. And so if there's one thing I want to leave the people out there, the folks that give and the folks that receive, is just always think about somebody else.
The impact that the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank has on Portage County Center of Hope is amazing. Through the pandemic, it warmed my heart to know that you all received a grant, and it allowed us to be able to have food pop-ups through the COVID-19 pandemic. We were feeding over 350 individuals a day. I just know when I sit down and eat my meal that someone else is sitting down and eating their meals.
If you were to ask me, what do I think of first when I think about the food bank, I think about partnership. It was in 2006. That's when the relationship really started between Stark Community Foundation and the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank. As I look to the future, if I were to leave a message to people 20 years from now, I think the message that I would present to them would be a message of hope, but I would also leave them with a message that the journey is never over and that we need to continue to work in partnership and recognize what can be accomplished when you set your mind to it.
As I watch the food bank do its work and as I reflect on, my goodness, 40 years of Harvest for Hunger, it makes me proud as a past board member when I hear people say, I'm going to send this family to this agency who distributes food thanks to the Akron-Canton Regional Foodbank.
I can't reflect on the food bank's 40th anniversary without knowing very well that one day, my last day at the food bank will come and I'll walk out. And it will continue to be a legacy in this community that not just represents our work, but represents our hearts. Because if I want to leave a legacy in this community that says, no matter what you ever did in your life, you deserve food. However self-inflicted your wounds will meet you where you are. That there's always forgiveness and love for you. And that we want you to live. And these are the things that I love about the food bank. And so when I think about my life's work, these are the things I want to leave behind. It's not a building. I mean, it's a place where people can find that love.